and welcome to tonight's Undaunted, bringing into the news on top stories. I am Onyi Opala. Let's begin. The town of Fundong in Mbororo County of the Savannah Zone of Ambazonia is reeling in shock and horror after the brutal murder of 17-year-old Stanley on Friday, the January 31st. The young boy was sent by his parents to sell beans at the local market, but his life was cut short by Colonial uniformed men who targeted him for his inability to provide them with a demanded sum of 10,000 francs. This senseless killing is just one of the many atrocities that have been perpetrated against the people of Ambazonia, particularly teenagers, children, and babies. The nation has been plagued by violence and terror, with reports of babies being stolen and fried, and children being targeted by armed groups. The situation is there with children and teenagers being forced to stay away from school due to the constant shooting and violence. The sound of gunfire and explosions has become a norm in many parts of Ambazonia, making it impossible for children to access education and live a normal life. The killing of Stanley is a deep reminder of the dangers that children and teenagers face in Ambazonia. Ambazonia has been torn apart by conflict with armed groups and colonial forces, perpetrating atrocities against civilians, including children and babies. As we know, the stealing and frying of babies is a horrific trend that has been reported in several parts of Ambazonia. This heinous crime has left many families traumatized and grieving, with some even reporting that their babies were stolen from their homes and later found fried and dead. Children and teenagers are also being targeted by these armed groups, with many being forced to join their ranks or face brutal punishments. The use of child soldier is a serious violation of the international law, and the people of Ambazonia are calling for an end to this practice. The war in Ambazonia has denied children and teenagers the right to education and a future. Schools have been closed, and many children have been forced to stay away from their classroom due to the constant shooting and violence. This has resulted in a lost generation, with many children and teenagers being denied the opportunity to acquire even skills and knowledge that will help them build a better future. The people of Ambazonia are calling for an end to this senseless war and a return to peace so that the children can access education and live a normal life. Africa, Europe, Asia must act now to stop the atrocities being perpetrated against the people of Ambazonia, particularly against children and babies. We all know that the stealing and frying of babies is all targeted towards Ambazonians. The targeting of children and teenagers and the denial of education and the future are all serious human rights violations that require immediate attention. The people of Ambazonia are genuinely calling for an end to the conflict and a return to peace. They need the help of the whole world, the international community, the universe, to rebuild their lives and create a better future for their children. We think that the time to act is now, before more innocent lives are lost. These and more we will speak on tonight on Undaunted, but first let's get the prime headlines. Tonight, we take a look at the security alert in Momo County because there is a whole lot of insecurity there. Also, Colonial military allegedly slaughters minor in Fundong. Tonight, we'll go over to the Mbororos as they have unalived a woman Also, we'll take a look at the Cameroonian-born Defense Council Chief Charles Tanku, how he has regretted the involvement of traditional rulers from Ambazonia in the endorsement of President Paul Biya. On the African scene, ECOWAS confirms withdrawal of 3 member states, while Canada responds to Trump's tariff plan. Now let's get the news info briefings. In the Midland zone, the Momo County is facing serious security issues. Reports hold that some civilians are working with the Colonial SDO to reveal the locations of local Ambazonian fighters. The community is called upon to stay alert and watch out for any suspicious activities. Recent news indicates that the Colonial SDO for Momo has asked civilians to help find the hideout of armed fighters. These people are reportedly being paid a sum of 200 francs to betray their own. In Mogamo local government area, a former Colonial Bees member is said to be part of this effort. He allegedly disguises himself and attends public events to gather information about the fighters. Because of this development, local leaders are urging fighters to be careful. They advise defense commanders to share the information and suggest that members find safe places to stay until the situation gets better. Coordinator Mbute Samuel has called for community support, encouraging families to stay involved and back the cause as hope for freedom remains strong. We have our in-house analyst, Bar.Tim Mbeseha, in the house. This is not the first time we have heard of, people being bought. That's the word, being bought to look for Ambazonian fighters. But we have, armed men who are terrorizing the people, who are kidnapping. I think those people are the ones who are causing havoc, and those people should be the ones who get arrested and all of that. But Bar.Tim Mbeseha, what would you think about this?
Well, good morning to all of you. What I think about it is this. In a fight, there are always two sides. There are the people fighting for and their enemies. As far as Ambazonia is concerned, we have Ambazonian fighters, the ones we call ASA. They're essentially guerrilla fighters. In other words, who are guerrilla fighters? They are fighters who live within the population. And so they are part of the population. Should this population ever turn against their own type? No, they are, in fact, as far as Ambazonia is concerned, most fighting is local. In Momo, if there are 100 fighters in Momo, at least 90% of them should be children from Momo, should be children whose parents know them. They know their parents and their parents know them. Why on earth, therefore, will a parent be willing to show out the hiding of their own son to be adopted and killed by the enemy? There's no justification for that. The only possible explanation is that those boys who are being pointed out as enemies might have done something wrong to turn their own parents into enemies who would like to see them eliminated. Is it possible? It's highly possible. But can those ones be described as ASA fighters? Certainly they call themselves like that, but they are not. They are not. And so we've always advised our own fighters to make sure the community is your friend. The people are your friends. The villagers are your people because they feed you, they give you food, they hide you, they know where you stay, they know where you sleep. And so there's no reason why they should turn against them. If they are turning against them and showing where their hard out is, it must be that something went wrong somewhere. It might be something went wrong somewhere in Momo. We already know it. It's not even a question, it might be. We know that in those days, not too long ago, there was a Choya by there who committed all types of crimes, who executed Momo children publicly in Goza Market, who extorted money and property, and perhaps still extort money and property from those very people. So they make it a fertile ground for the enemy, the administrator, to do that because they have already made enough enemies among the people themselves. So what would my advice be? If these boys, call them egg of sea fighters, who wants to rain terror on these people, if they have stopped, and I'm sure they have almost stopped, they are on the run. They are virtually on the run pathway in Momo. So what should the villagers do? Should they hunt them down with the enemy and kill them? Certainly not. So what should they be doing? They should allow them free passage. They should forgive them as long as they are no longer doing harm to them. It's nothing pay them to go report them to the enemy. They come and kill their own children. They cannot kill their own dependents. It's just not morally correct. So what I would suggest is that those people who are taking bribe to doing what they are doing, they are not the issue. No longer the boys on the run. If the boys are on the run, there's no need to turn them over to the enemy. If you turn them over to the enemy, you become an enemy yourself. What are you turning them in for? For a few pieces of silver. 30 pieces of silver, that's who cries to death. And so that's what I can say about that. We pray that this should not happen. If it is happening, we pray that the Momo people, there's something particularly wrong with Momo. We have so many things happening in Momo. In this government that we have a lot of people from Momo, powerful position holders. But on the other side of it, on the flip side of it, we also have where the enemy has sought shelter in Momo, has had the cooperation of some Momo people. So they're in between, doing all these things to get pay from the colonial administrator. Is that new? No. Blacklegging has been part and parcel of our communities before. The chief blackleg man that we ever had in West Cameroon and in Southern Cameroon was S.T. Mona. He was a government minister. He was deputy minister of finance in the time of Foncha. But he sold Foncha out for a few pieces of silver. We can only urge that this thing should stop. But on the flip side of it, the Mona was a very bad guy. But we can remember his own son, Bernard Mona of blessed memory, whose last words will always echo here. He told us to fight and fight. Fight and liberate yourself, she said. We don't expect your parents to come and fight for you. So the Mona name may be sounding bad, but this encouragement from his own son, Ben Mona, who died not too long ago, is something that we should take note. We should not generalize this blacklegging, this ever doing to all the Monas or to the Momo people. No. If they are blacklegs, they are blacklegs. That we should deal with them. And they know that the best punishment for a blackleg, if you are a citizen and you're turning in your own children for massacre, for murder, you're a blackleg, you're an active criminal yourself. The Lord will not forgive you just because you have done it to someone who hurt you. And so, again, my advice is, if these are egg of sea people who are now apparently on the run, better show them the exit rather than show them over to the enemy to kill them. Because they are our own children, they constitute part of their own community. Over to you.
Thank you so much. And here is another very sad story, but this time we're heading down to Fundong in the Boyo County of the Savannah Zone. Well, still in disbelief after this tragic murder of a 17-year-old boy named Stanley, whose death occurred on Friday, January 31st. He had been sent by his parents to get beans at the local market when he became a targeted victim of violence by Colonial uniformed men, possibly because of his inability to provide them with an amount of 10,000 francs, which they had demanded. In Ngwa, Fundong, the community is reeling from the loss of Stanley, estimated to be a 17-year-old boy, who was simply trying to help his family, who was at the market buying beans when he encountered a dangerous situation amid rising tension in the area. Witnesses report that soldiers arrived at the market demanding payment of 10,000 francs from the vendor. While many complied, Stanley, who hadn't sold enough, was unable to pay. Eyewitnesses claim he was taken away by armed individuals. Later, Stanley's body was discovered by the roadside. His family identified him, and the condition of his body was heartbreaking, showing clear signs of violence, including a slit tooth. Witnesses described the attack as heavily armed men in colonial military uniforms, who mentioned a recent incident involving their units where one of their kind was possibly murdered in the virus. Well, while some suspects this to be some sort of revenge for their alleged colleague's mother, others believe this was yet another act of theft by their pallbearers armed men, as it is in their habit to forcibly take what belongs to the vulnerable Ambazonian people. Imagine a boy selling or buying pins. Imagine what the family is average. Where is he going to get 10,000 francs from? Bar.Tim Mbeseha. This is a very sad story. I wonder how the parents and their relations would be feeling at this point.
It's a very sad story. It's a story that should not have happened. It should never happen to anybody, not just in Ambazonia, anywhere where there's war. Because during war, in all wars, there are different classes of people who are protected. The first group of protection are civilians who are unarmed. Because in war, you have armed civilians, armed people. If somebody is unarmed, you don't need to target that person. That's just general. Goes down again, the second level of protection is children and women. Because children by themselves do not pose any danger to anybody. Women by their own nature, by themselves, pose no danger to anybody. So if you target children, if you target women, that's a war crime. It is even more crime, it is even aggravated war crime when you target an unarmed little boy. And so the ICC is one of those places where you expect to end your journey. And so targeting these boys is a different story, war crime. Then targeting them because you want to extort money from them makes it worse than ever before. What are you doing? You're trying to steal 10,000 from the poor boy, with the use of arms. That in ordinary law is called armed robbery. You're trying to rob him of 10,000, which he did not even have. And of course, all he could do was to take his life for not giving you 10,000, whatever thing you call it, whether it was a bribe or whatever thing it could not be a bribe. It could not be a bribe because he was not asking for any favor from you. He's just taking 10,000 from him to buy his own life. It is a criminal event. It falls on all fours within the laws that the ICC prosecutor will look at. So we can only hope that these things are properly documented. The day is coming when perpetrators will be held accountable. If we don't know that perpetrator, if we don't know the soldier who shot, that's okay. All we need to do is to know that this was done by the soldiers and we have the evidence. Because in the ICC process, they are looking for the commanders. At least officially there's a commander of that unit. It should be well known. He probably commands more than 50, 30, or 100 soldiers. So commanders will not escape the wrath. The people who live in that Fundong area, is it Fundong? People who live there, them keep their eyes open. Give us the records. Let them give us the evidence that go to link that killing to soldiers wearing uniform. That are Republic soldiers. They are all armed robbers in the first place. They are murderers because you kill somebody without any reason. And then they are war criminals for targeting little children during war. And so that's the price they have to pay. I mean, they have to pay the price, not you, the victim. The boy and the family and you and me are just victims. And so we have this evidence, we need this evidence in more detail. For example, to know exactly where the event took place, to know exactly the child's name, the, 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 his age, if possible, and the rare circumstances of what happened to him. If we do all this, we shall include it in our Ambazonia Genocide Library. We shall include it in the updating of our ICC file, which is pending, and hopefully these people will be held accountable sooner or later. Over to you.
Oh yes, and still on a very sad one here, Bar.Tim Mbeseha. Still on killing, we have this report of a woman who has died from injuries sustained because she was attacked by angry Mbororos. The reason advanced by the attacker is that the lady refused him from gaining entrance to the sister. Mbororo man has taken refuge with the La Republic de Cameroon Colonial forces after stabbing a lady who is a native of the Unwa to death. The lady was stabbed according to the attacker because she denied the union between this Mbororo guy and the sister. The incident happened in the Ambazonian village of Unwa on Saturday, February 1st, 2025. Report holds that the Mbororo man has been nursing anger against his victim because he wanted to solidify his relationship with the sister by getting married to her. Because this elder sister refused the union with a knife, he attacked this lady, inflicting fatal wounds on her. All attempts to rescue the lady failed. After committing the act, the Mbororo guy, as at press time, the name was not gotten, ran to the Colonial Police Post of Unwa local government area for refuge. Youth of the area went on rampage when it was declared in the hospital that the attacked lady has given up the coast. In their numbers, the youth stormed the Colonial Police Post requesting for the release of this Mbororo guy for mob justice to take its course. The youth overpowered the Colonial forces, but they weren't able to retrieve this killer just because the Colonial forces called for reinforcement to transfer him out of the locality. All of this can be avoided if there is peace, unity, and understanding. Bar.Tim Mbeseha, I'm sure you would agree with me.
Well, I've always said that whatever is going on now is indicative of total breakdown of law and order, total breakdown of governance. You see, otherwise, I don't know what the facts are so clear. If it is true that it was something that concerning marriage, you want to marry a woman, I don't know any community in the world that I know that would tell you that if a woman refuses to marry you, you should kill her. I've not seen that before. This is the first time I see this. Because marriage is a type of emotional attachment. You get attached to a man or to a woman to the point that you're emotionally attached. You want to get married to each other. You want to share the same bed. You want to share the same meals. You want to share the same house. And for a no, even at the altar, even before the civil status registrar, you have to stab her to death. Well, we don't doubt that that's what happened. What we're doubting is what we see coming out of the justice system. Good enough. They tell us that he is in the hands of the police or the gendarmes, whatever they call it. Therefore, he is in the hands of the law enforcement department. Let us see what justice comes out of it. Will any justice come out of it? Maybe. We're very doubtful as far as Cameroon is concerned. Because every judicial process is tainted with corruption. Who knows? How much money do people go and give? He's on the people of the murderer to set their guy free. Who knows how much money he has in it? If he was getting married and money, then he will dish into the hands of the police or gendarmes and be allowed self-exit and he will disappear. These are all possibilities. But all said and done, what is happening to that woman, what happened to that woman, and has happened to other people is a total breakdown of governance. There's no governance in place. There's no law enforcement anywhere. Everybody is free to do what they like. The Mbororo have been causing havoc, but this is different from just a Mbororo case. This is a man and a woman. This is just a man and a woman. It's not a group of Mbororo coming to feed their cows, as they have been doing. This is a man killing a woman that he is supposed to marry, and for whatever reason, the woman says, "No, I'm not marrying you." They kill her. It is highly unusual. I've never heard that before. But again, there's nothing short of outright murder. This outright murder, motivated because he came there with a knife. We came here with a dagger, with the aim of doing something. He brought the dagger from home, so it was planned in advance. And so there's no excuse of anger. There's no excuse of any passion there. No, they just planned murder because the guy left his house with a dagger, having in mind that I will do harm to this woman if she refuses to marry me. But has she married him? I think it was just a question of postponing her death because there's not a husband that you like to go and live with for the rest of your lives. Your death will come sooner or later. What we don't know is how this dead woman even managed to link up with this guy. who is so cruel, who is so wicked, to the extent of even trying to marry her. You know, say life is funny. Women have different characters. This idea of marriage has taken different dimensions around the world, and this is a pathetic one. Over to you.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Bar.Tim Mbeseha. On Saturday, we started this discussion about the endorsement of, the president of the La Republic de Cameroon, where some Ambazonian funds actually supported that move. Well, today on the report, we have the Cameroonian-born Defense Council Chief Charles Tanku. He says he's regretting such and wondering why, some Ambazonian traditional rulers would actually join to support such a move. And so we're going to take this with a follow-up report, and then we want to also hear your thought, knowing that you joined this conversation on Saturday where this discussion started. So the Cameroonian-born Defense Council Chief Charles Taku has regretted the involvement of traditional rulers from the Ambazonian descent in the endorsement of 91-year-old President Biya for the presidential mandate. All right. So Charles Taku argues that their involvement defeats the purpose of special status that the colonial government accorded to Ambazonia in 2019, recognizing the sacredness of their traditional institution. His reaction came after some 200 traditional rulers met in Yaoundé, the colonial political La République du Cameroon capital, on January 27, after which 12 traditional rulers, including 3 from the Ambazonian nation, signed a declaration endorsing Paul Biya's candidacy for this year's La République du Cameroon presidential election. While the decision sparked reaction about the political neutrality of traditional chiefs in the Cameroons, Chief Taku viewed the endorsement from legal perspective. Because according to him, he says traditional rulers meeting chaired by the colonial minister of territorial administration exposed the fallacious nature of spatial status and the House of Chiefs, which he described as a masquerade in royal regalia. The House of Chiefs, he added, derived its existence, legitimacy, and special status from the December 2019 law to institute the General Code of Regional and Local Authorities. Given the special status of Ambazonia, Chief Tanku argues that the Anglophone, in quotes, the Anglophone chiefs should have remained special by refraining from the endorsement of Paul Biya. But their involvement in this endorsement, he argued, defeated the special status they enjoy. The Anglophone chiefs endorsed of Biya is inconsistent with the Southern Cameroon's cultural and institutional values and its international legal identity. That's what he thinks. He also argued that this has defeated its so-called special status and its organizational goals stated in its enabling legislation. Bar.Tim Mbeseha, like I said earlier in this particular debate, you started it on Saturday. And here we have someone who is condemning it in totality. Of course, where we were standing or where we're coming from on Saturday is just the funds from the Ambazonian nation signed it. 3 is inconsequential when it comes to the numbers of other funds, where we got over 200 funds, right? 3 is inconsequential. But Chief Tanko feels that even those 3, they've done harm to all of the struggles of Ambazonians at this point. Would you agree with him?
Well, he has said just what everybody would say. But let me correct one thing before we move on. Chief Taku is not a Cameroonian-born lawyer. No. Chief Taku is an Ambazonian-born lawyer. He's not from Cameroon. He's from Libya. So he's an Ambazonian, not a Cameroonian-born lawyer.
All right, thank you.
So we should correct that narrative. That said, what he says about the chiefs is purely, absolutely on all fours with the law. One, just analyzing from the signature, he said 3 people signed that so-called resolution. From northwest, southwest, they call it three. Two from the grassfield, that's the northwest, and one from the southwest. But who is this guy from the southwest? Let me just address him first. The guy who signed from the southwest is Tabe Tando. Tabe Tando is supposed to be the chief of Bachua Die. He's the chief of a small village there. I think he managed to push himself up to the second level of class two of the class of the chiefdoms. By the 1977 decree classifying chiefs in order of seniority, in the whole of Manu, at the time of that decree, there were only three first class, or those who fall in the first class. One was the son of Fontaine, one was the son of Amumbo, and one was the chief of Manfred Township, Oben something. Those were the only three in the whole division they call Manu at the time. But today, the Manu they call at the time has broken up into two divisions. One has become the BLM, and with it, the other two first-class chiefdoms in the whole of Manu have BLM. And so, does Chief Tabe Tando enjoy any legality to sign something for the other chiefs in the whole of Manu? Talk less of the whole of the Southwest, because that one was signed. He doesn't have any legality. He has never even been to Bamumbo, to most of the chiefdoms or fondoms that are found in the Southwest. The same applies to Chief Chaffa from Chaffa or whatever thing you call it. They don't know they have no legality to commit the people, even the chiefdoms. Even they could commit them. If the chiefs had a say in politics, those signatories have nothing to commit the people to it. They are not supposed to sign for them, so that the piece of paper they call motion of support is null and void on the face of it, because the signatories had nothing to do with the people. They were signing for their own purpose. They were signing for the bread. They were signing for the money they paid him. Chief Tabe Tando, for example, I know, is a senator. He's also the parliamentary group leader of the CPDM in the Senate. That's a chunk of money, a lot of money for him. He's also the person who is enjoying all the benefits from timber exploited from Manu. That's too much money for him. These licenses are given by Yaoundé. And so he has no power to sign anything. Absolutely no power to sign anything. But Chief Taku says something more important, which requires our attention. He says that they are trying to promote what they call the special status. That has been on the which have been on the two. What is a special status? In summary put, they are trying to sign up to the status quo. They will remain and parcel of the one civil Cameroon. Call Yaoundé will assign a status to what they call the Northwest and Southwest. An equal person in partnership will assign the other person a status. That's legally not acceptable. That's constitutionally not acceptable. Why, again, this sing-song of one indivisible Cameroon, where some people will be giving a special status? Why? We must ask this question. The idea of one indivisible Cameroon that has been in the thinking of Yaoundé and France from day one was flatly rejected by our own forefathers in the so-called Fumban constitutional talks. The Fumban constitutional talks held from the 17th of July 1961 to the 21st of July 1961. That's the first time that they had a meeting, a formal meeting between the delegation of the Southern Cameroons and the delegation of the Republic of Cameroon. And before them, Ayejo presented their constitution, which they intended to amend to accommodate Southern Cameroon. In Article 1, 2b, that draft amended constitution stated, among other things, that the Federal Republic of Cameroon shall be one and indivisible. That's what they said. That was written there. So when the discussions opened on the 17th of July 1961, that was the first time they met as a joint delegation. And so it was just a formality to have it open. But to have the formalities recognized, Ahidjo had to make an opening speech in that conference, constitutional statement. After Ahidjo, Fancha had to make one because there were two parties. Fancha made a statement, Ahidjo made one first, Fancha made one, and to show the level of democracy in Southern Cameroon. Endeli, the leader of the opposition, made a third speech. There was no other fourth speech from the Republic of Cameroon. So we were working out on equality. That was at 11 a.m. on the 17th of July, 1961. After those formalities of opening, they broke off and allowed the Southern Cameroons to work alone on the proposed amended constitution. And when they came back to session at 2:30 that afternoon, they took this amended constitution proposed by Ahidjo and they started looking at it. They had to start with Article 1. They saw Article 1B or something, written there in black and white. The Federal Republic of Cameroon shall be one and indivisible. The West Cameroon delegation was assisted by a powerful lawyer who was the Attorney General, Mr. Smith, British-born lawyer. They debated that thing and said, look, there's nothing like one and indivisible here. We don't accept this nonsense of a Federal Republic of Cameroon being one and indivisible. They argued it and argued it and said, okay, that's a position. It was sent back to Ahidjo that the Anglophones, to call them, people of the Southern Cameroon, don't want this one and indivisible thing. And Ahidjo took note of that. On the 21st, 3 days after, when Ahidjo came to close that meeting called the Fundong Conference, Ahidjo made a speech. His first lines of his speech said that he had taken note of the objection of the Southern Cameroonians to the word one and indivisible. And so the argument was so genuine that he believes that the thing should simply be left out. It should be deleted. It should be omitted from the Constitution. And it was then omitted straight away. So in the 1961 Federal Constitution, which later on passed without any vote from them, it passed through the Parliament of East Cameroon, the word one and indivisible Federal Republic of Cameroon was dropped. One and indivisible was dropped. So if you take that Federal Constitution, you don't see anything written there, one and indivisible, because the Southern Cameroonians were opposed to it. And they had their way, because they were there as a team. Ndele was there, Foncha was there, Muna was there. They were a team. It was a team of last of 50 delegates, and rejected it. And Yaoundé saw the strength of the argument and abandoned the one and indivisible nonsense of Cameroon. But that was only way for a while, only way for 10 years. When they brought it back, when they realized that they had decapitated West Cameroon, they had dismissed Foncha, they had removed all the people who were arguing there, Indira and the rest, and they now brought it now under the 20th May referendum, which adopted a new constitution called the Constitution of the United Republic of Cameroon. The Article 1 then came back again. The United Republic of Cameroon shall be one and indivisible, because there was nobody to oppose them. And so, for those chiefs, who I'm sure are successors to these very old people who are dead, their parents were there. In fact, in the Fundong Conference, the House of Chiefs was adequately represented by 6 chiefs from the Southern Cameroon House of Chiefs. They represented all the interests of the chiefs. And so, their fathers had rejected it. Ahidjo had accepted it. So the notion of giving you a special status so that you can fit in the one and indivisible Cameroon is a farce. It's a criminal thing. It should never be tolerated by any English-speaking Cameroonian, by any Ambazonia, by any former British Southern Cameroonian. Because the word one and indivisible is a ploy to destroy your own institutions. Because they don't want you to revive your own institutions, but they want to assume the leadership of the elder, the senior in the house, the senior in the block, who would give you what they want, not what you want. So the whole idea of special status, as Barasa Taku says, it's a charade. It's a charade. The statehood of Southern Cameroon is not out for sale. It's not something that a chief, a fund, whoever, would mortgage for money. whether it is 7 million, 1,000 cows, or whatever thing they give you, the statehood of Southern Cameroon is not for sale. And so the one indivisible thing, the supporting of Mr. Paul Biya indirectly trying to make him rule over the people and implement the one indivisible nature of Cameroon and stop the war is not going to work. It has not worked. It will not work. And so those chiefs, if they do not know, let them take this my lesson. This what I'm saying is not our opinion. It's in writing, in documents of the 1961 Fundong Conference. It's in writing. I'm not imagining anything. So if they have not read this, they have better read it and know that whatever they are doing, they are betraying their own forefathers. They are betraying their own forefathers. Because the chiefs were a very powerful institution in Southern Cameroon. And that's why when they went to Fundong, there was a special representative of the chiefs, a delegation of 6 out of 50. And so these people are either so ignorant or they're just so corrupt. And as far as the people who signed that resolution is concerned, I think corruption is a manta. Tabitano, who signed the sideways, I know him so well, he's just a corrupt guy. He's the product of Itiegwe, who himself was so corrupt that he remained in the government house in Yaoundé until he died. He was so irritating to them. So he has Itiegwe's DNA in his blood. And so we think Barrister Taku, who is an Ambazonian, not Cameroonian, has only added more to explain why we must resist. He has added more to those our chiefs to understand why we are fighting. If they did not understand, they should not have understood that we're not fighting for peanuts. We're not fighting for personal rewards. We're not fighting for positions in Yaoundé. And so he's perfectly right. The special status has been proven to be nothing. It was legally nothing. It was politically not even supposed to be there because our people had rejected the one indivisible notion of Cameroon way back in 1961 on the first official contact they had as a delegation with the Yaoundé Ahijo as a delegation, 2 delegations equal in status. That's what it should be. That's what it is. And that's what we're fighting for. Over to you.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we are fighting for. Thank you so much, Bar.Tim Mbeseha, for coming on today's Undaunted. Well, we'll let you go right now and definitely come back to you tomorrow with updates on all of these reports and also every new thing happening from the home front. Coming up next is news across Africa. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has officially confirmed the withdrawal of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger from the regional bloc. Effective from January 29, 2024, this move is a significant development in the region with far-reaching implications for the economy, security, and human rights of the affected countries. I will remind you that the 3 countries announced their decision to leave ECOWAS in a joint statement citing concerns that the regional body has become a threat to its members and it's under the influence of foreign powers. They also accused ECOWAS of failing to support their fight against terrorism and insecurity while imposing sanctions after military coup. According to Aliu Chan, the United Nations independent expert on the situation of human rights in Mali, this decision was made unilaterally by unelected officials without consulting the people. He expressed concerns that the withdrawal could lead to further instability and human rights violation in the continent. The withdrawal of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger from ECOWAS is likely to have significant economic implications for the region. The 3 countries are among the poorest in the world and really heavily on trade with other ECOWAS member states. The loss of access to the ECOWAS markets and the potential disruption of trade, the flows could exacerbate poverty and food insecurity in the region. But if you pause and think, probably that's why they want to withdraw from ECOWAS. just to help themselves, since they already ranked the poorest in the continent and maybe in the world. The security implications of the withdrawal are also a major concern. The three countries are located in the Sahel region, which is plagued by terrorism and insecurity. So the withdrawal from ECOWAS could lead to a reduction in the regional cooperation and coordination on security issues, making it more difficult to combat terrorists, the groups such as Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State. So the human rights implications of the withdrawal are also significant. The ECOWAS Court of Justice has been a key avenue for seeking justice for human rights violation in the continent. The withdrawal of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger from ECOWAS means that citizens of these countries will no longer have access to the courts, which could lead to a decline in human rights protection and accountability. Africans have expressed concern about the withdrawal of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger from the ECOWAS. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called for calm and dialogue, urging the parties to work towards a peace resolution. The African Union has also expressed concern, stating that the withdrawal could have negative consequences for regional stability and security. In response to the withdrawal, ECOWAS has announced plans to strengthen its cooperation with other regional organizations such as the African Union, the AU, and the United Nations, the UN. The regional body has also pledged to continue working with the government of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger to address the root causes of the crisis and promote regional stability and security. Overall, the withdrawal of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger from ECOWAS is a complex and multifaceted issue with significant implications for the continent. It is essential for the international community to continue to engage with the parties involved and work towards a peaceful resolution that promotes regional stability, security, and human rights. And so the withdrawal of the three countries from ECOWAS is also likely to have implications for the regional body's ability to promote economic integration and cooperation. ECOWAS has been working towards creating a single market and custom union, but the withdrawal of three countries could hinder these efforts. The regional body has also been working to promote regional security and stability, but the withdrawal of the three countries could reduce its effectiveness in that area. So ECOWAS has been involved in several regional security initiatives, but of course, these other Sahel countries, as they are called, do not think so. And so in conclusion for today, we can say that the withdrawal of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger from ECOWAS could be a significant development with a far-reaching implication as well. Wherever there is a disadvantage, there is also an advantage. It is essential that the world continues to engage with the parties involved and work towards peace resolution that promotes regional stability, security, and human rights. Coming up next is news across the globe. Before we start, let's take that video.
States informed us they will be imposing 25% tariffs on Canadian exports to the United States and 10% on Canadian energy. A decision that, should they elect to proceed with, should take effect on Tuesday, February 4th. This is a choice that, yes, will harm Canadians, but beyond that, it will have real consequences for you, the American people. As I have consistently said, tariffs against Canada will put your jobs at risk, potentially shutting down American auto assembly plants and other manufacturing facilities. They will raise costs for you, including food at the grocery stores and gas at the pump. They will impede your access to an affordable supply of vital goods crucial for U.S. security, such as nickel, potash, uranium, steel, and aluminum. If President Trump wants to usher in a new golden age for the United States, the better path is to partner with Canada, not to punish us. Canada has critical minerals, reliable and affordable energy, stable democratic institutions, shared values, and the natural resources you need. Canada has the ingredients necessary to build a booming and secure partnership for the North American economy, and we stand at the ready to work together.
Oh, well, Canada is definitely not happy about Trump's tariff, and they are hitting back hard. Ontario Premier Doug Ford said Canada has no choice but to retaliate and hit back hard, matching U.S. tariffs dollar for dollar. He even mentioned that Canada has a lot of leverage with high-grade nickel, energy, electricity, uranium, potash, and aluminium that America needs. The Canadian Chamber of Commerce is also speaking out, saying that Trump's decision to impose tariffs will have immediate and direct consequences on Canada and American livelihoods, drastically increasing the cost of everything for everyone. Meanwhile, Nova's courtier Premier Tom Huston is taking a strong stance, limiting access to provincial procurement for American businesses, cancelling existing contracts, and even removing all alcohol from the U.S. from their shelves. It's not just Canada that is reacting, though. Mexico is also speaking out. According to Marshall Suvel's principal Latin American analyst for eMarketer, the 25% tariff on Mexico threatened to upend 3 decades of trade integration, dampening retail growth and adding pressure on businesses. As for the impact on the U.S., it's likely that the pump price will indeed skyrocket and U.S. farmers will be in trouble since Mexicans won't be harvesting what they've planted. The American fuel and petrochemical manufacturers are already warning that tariffs on Canadian and Mexican oil will increase cost of the U.S. refining industry, leading to higher prices for gasoline and diesel. It's clear that Trump's tariffs are having a ripple effect, and it's not just Canada and Mexico that are feeling the heat. The U.S. is likely to face significant economic consequences, and it's only a matter of time before Trump starts looking for a solution to this trade war. On the other hand, BRICS members, India and Indonesia, have officially agreed to abandon the US dollar and settle cross-border transactions in local currencies. This decision comes despite threats from former US President Donald Trump to levy 100% tariffs on goods entering the US. This shift away from the US dollar is expected to have far-reaching consequences for the American economy, with 5 major sectors set to be affected. This includes banking and finance. Of course, you know that the US banking system will face significant challenges as foreign exchange decline, making it harder for the US Central Bank to import the dollar. Technology and fintech. The tech sector will take a hit as inflation in the U.S. will lead to job losses, and multinational corporations, it will have to shell out more money to stay afloat. When you talk about international trades and investment, the cost of trade with BRICS nations will increase, making U.S. exports less competitive and potentially leading to a decline in foreign investments. Consumer goods and retail. The prices of everyday essentials will definitely skyrocket, which will lead to a decline in consumer spending and a potential recession. Should we even talk about travel and tourism? That would definitely be affected. And so this move by BRICS nation is seen as a significant change to the dominance of the US dollar in global trade and could have far-reaching implications for the global economy as the world's largest economies increasingly turn away from the US dollar. The US will be forced to reevaluate its economic policies and find new ways to remain competitive in the global markets. Well, Trump seems to be on everything. We'll see how that goes in the coming days. But this is where we draw the corridor tonight on Undaunted. But before we go, let's take a look at the major stories. Tonight, we talked about security alert in Momo County, the Midland zone. Also in Fundong, military allegedly slaughters a minor, while Mbororo unalives a woman after being angry. We talked about the Ambazonian Born Defense Council Chief Charles Tackle as he has regretted the involvement of traditional rulers in supporting 91-year-old President Paul Biya. Also tonight, ECOWAS confirms the withdrawal of 3 member states, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. We also talked about the Trump's tariffs plan and how Canada has responded. And that's it for tonight's Undaunted. Bring it to the news on 12 stories on behalf of all the technical team and of course our in-house analyst, Bar.Tim Mbeseha. Good night and God bless.